And so before we begin, it's really important to make this point that the charge behind this study was to really closely look at the CDP role and find ways where technology could improve retention and recruitment and productivity. So this was not a study where we looked at wages or other areas. It was just really understanding the role and finding opportunities for technology to transform it. So, all of this kicked off. So when we started this project in October 2023, the stats that you're seeing here, they're referenced from the NRMCA's report, the 2021 report. And at that time, you have almost a third of your CDPs who are quitting during the first year. The the recruitment pool is too small. And as a consequence here, a lot of businesses are losing profit from this. And so we put our heads together and we really performed this comprehensive analysis to build these recommendations. And so there were several different things that we did. We analyzed, 36,000 deliveries to identify opportunities for productivity improvement. We worked with MIT's Transportation and Logistics Freight Lab. We interviewed several groups, including CDPs and those from tech companies and plant managers, to learn more about what's happening and taking this, to identify what's happening. Then we constructed a ready mix plant simulator that enabled us to estimate the value associated with hiring and retaining and increasing CDP productivity. And finally, what we were able to do is take all of that information and construct this really unique national CDP survey where we could then come up with recommendations that would help with recruitment, retention, and productivity. So as I mentioned, we looked at 36,000 deliveries in order to know the average amount of time that was spent on each activity. And so you can see here in this image right here on the left-hand side here in the column, you have the different activities: driving to the plant, washing, pouring, waiting for the pour. And on the bottom here is the average elapsed times in minutes. And so on average, the average time it takes for one delivery is about 120 minutes. And on average, a CDP is, delivering about 3.1 loads per day. Now, the reason why we did this is because we know that the national vacancy rate is 10%. And so we said, okay, well, where are these frictionless opportunities for, a 10% improvement? And so can we increase daily deliveries from 3.1 to 3.5? How can we shorten the duration of the time from 120 minutes to 108? And so let's see here. Whoops. There we go. So that was the very first part. And so we're looking at, like waiting to wash, where after they've got passed through they're sitting in the yard and they're sitting in the yard and they're getting ready to leave there and they're washing. So the next thing that we did is that after we had been interviewing several folks, and especially at some of the smaller plants, when asking them about how much it costs to replace CDPs, often it was, it was a rough estimate, maybe $8,000 per CDP. And so we decided that we wanted to build our own CSHub Ready Mix plant simulator where we could estimate the cost to replace estimate the cost to replace. Oh my goodness, getting caught. My words are getting estimate the value of recruiting and retaining. So in our model, in our plant, we're saying that we have 50 trucks and that we're hiring 17 CDPs per year. there are 7 CDPs who are leaving, and we also take into account the productivity. So of course there are the direct costs, and that's easy to measure. That's, the wages paid during training, the training costs, and the HR entry and exit costs. But the other element that we added to this are the indirect costs, and that would be the revenue loss from the idle trucks, and then also the revenue loss from reduced CDP productivity, because a CDP who you've hired and doesn't have a CDL is going to be very different. This person's productivity will be very different from a person who has ready mix experience and is just moving from a company. So we're taking that into account in our simulator. And so what this is showing here is, so that when you're looking here at this figure, is that on the bottom axis here, on the x-axis, you have the average number of hires. And so at our plant, remember, we said that we're at 17 and CDPs. And on the left-hand side, you have the normalized annual hiring cost. And so what's happening here is that as you're hiring more CDPs, your direct costs are increasing. But what is significant is that while you are hiring more and those direct costs are going, the savings from not having idle trucks is much more significant. And so here at 17, where we're hiring 17 CDPs per year, you can see that the normalized lost loads, the percentage of annual loads, it's at 12%. And then if you move down to 19, it's at approximately 7%. So the reduction in lost sales from idle trucks easily offsets the additional costs from hiring. The other thing too is just the significant gains that are related to retaining your CDPs. So here in this figure, you're going to see here at the center here at that 26 weeks. And we selected this number because that's when, I believe 50% of CDPs will quit. And so what we wanted to do is look at the increase in annual net revenue and see what happens when retention improves. And so you can see here that for each additional week of average retention is going to generate about 1% gain in net revenue. And so increasing the new hire tenure by even just 30% by 9 weeks, so from 26 to 9 weeks, provides the same value as doubling the hiring rate. And so really what we're doing here is we're building the case for showing that technology investments can easily provide positive returns, when they're impacting productivity, recruitment, or retention. And so here in this figure, you've got your baseline, our hub, where we have our model inputs, and it's showing you the distribution of the delivered loads. But if you can increase your productivity by 10%, and you're showing your loads delivered, that 1% gain in productivity will yield approximately about a 1% increase in your net revenue. And so if you're investing in this technology, and assuming that this technology has a lifetime of 8 years, these are inputs that we've put in here, but it's to demonstrate this point, that we're saying that, our plant, if we could invest more than 5% of its expected annual net revenue in new technology for every 1% gain in productivity, and we still can come ahead. So we're laying the foundation here and thinking about where we now know that this is feasible and it makes sense, but now where and how. And so that leads us to our survey. And so we constructed this survey where we had different parts of their jobs, and they could tell us, if which tasks they loved and liked, or if they hated it or disliked it, or of course there's that group in the middle where they're just like, take it or leave it. And so we deployed the survey across the US, and we had 439 CDPs fully complete it. And so what we did was that we wanted to identify the factors that would, that contribute the most to jobs dissatisfaction. And I guarantee it, all of this is just, it's validating what we already know and what you know. And so you're going to see that, at the very bottom here, that break times are inadequate, and that the schedule, the management, camera monitorings, and driver performance being unrecognized, or responsiveness of management, which is more of a people problem. And then the physical jobs of the requirement. And you can see here that these different colors, they represent tenure. And so it really, there was not a significant difference between those, who have been there for 10 or more years or less than 6 months. So the next thing that we did was, when they selected the top 5 things that they disliked the most, there would be a follow-up question, and we would present a recommendation or a solution to them, and we would ask how much their job satisfaction would increase, considering that this option existed. And so here we're saying to them, okay, how much would your job satisfaction increase if you had more control over your daily start and stop times? And here you can, and it's just reinforcing what we already know, is that it's significantly, and that there's not this difference between those who have been at the company for just a few months and those who have been there for, 10 or more years. So the next thing that we did ask the CDPs in the survey was, we wanted to know about, what are the most challenging first year CDP tests. And here what we learn is that the very first one, there are the driving off road and placing concrete for more challenging pours. And then we also then have the knowledge of concrete knowledge and communication. Now, just because of the size of the graph and the slide, learning properties of concrete, that also means about water usage, and when they're going, and knowing how much water to add and whatnot if there aren't any sensors. And so that was some things that were revealed during the CDP interviews. So we can take this now, and we can use these responses from the CDPs to underscore where we need to prioritize our efforts. And so it's scheduling and management, the physical requirements. How can we use technology to help our first year CDPs to not just become so frustrated and leave, and so dealing with the contractors and off-roading. So once we had all of this information, the final step that we took was that we held a workshop, and we presented these findings to discover what things made sense. And so those attendees were folks, plant managers, folks from companies that from gamification and simulations, and we brought everyone together. And so what we discovered in this workshop is that folks want more data, because they're operating in a tight market, and so they need to understand more about the value of the existing solutions. The industry must come together and work together to create these long-term solutions. And then, another thing, and this emerged too in the interviews, but it was really reinforced during the workshop, where just this perception of limited career pathways, and how that also impedes retention and recruitment. And so, our Liz, who's going to be taking a deep dive into the recommendations and linking it to some of the things that I was mentioning, will need to address all of these issues. All right, Liz, you there?
I am here, yes.
Excellent. All righty. The floor is yours.
All right. Just wanted to turn my camera on real quick. Well, thank you so much, Beth, for sharing all of these results. As Beth said earlier, this was a really fun project for us and continues to be an exciting area to dive into and understand how to really improve some of the recruitment and retention in this industry. And I think we've taken some lessons learned from this project and brought them into other industries like the manufacturing industry as well. So, thank you all for being here and let us know what questions may come up for you. So, as Beth said, I'm really excited to share our team's recommendations based on all of our findings. The cost and productivity analysis that Beth mentioned before that shows the value of recruitment, retention, and productivity. The survey and the workshop helped provide some clues on these best solutions. And then our synthesis of all of this really leads to the following recommendations. So at the beginning of the presentation, we identified there were three major challenges that you can see again here that are facing the ready mixed industry: recruitment, retention, and productivity. On the next couple of slides, I will discuss some of the potential solutions for addressing these challenges that fall into the six categories that are shown here. It's important to note that there are various systems manufacturers and solutions that are on the market right now that can help to enable these recommendations. Next slide, please, Beth. All right, we are going to begin with recruitment. So in order to recruit more CDPs, the first step is to really increase that candidate pool. One thing that we can focus on is developing a standardized set of skills for the CDP to demonstrate that this position involves specialized technical knowledge. We believe this could help in recruiting foreign workers by fitting the criteria of a technical role that is required for an H-1B visa. The standardized skills would also be helpful in developing modular curricula that could allow some workers, such as other types of CDL drivers, to be trained without going through the full training gambit. Finally, this skills list would also help to identify the skills that are common with some other roles, and we could then target some of those groups that have similar skills for hiring. Next, we could expand access to younger workers through developing new roles, such as a concrete delivery technician position or an internship program through partnership with concrete construction communities. For example, a concrete delivery technician could learn about the properties of concrete and provide customer support, while the CDP is responsible for the driving piece of it. The goal of creating this position would be to support the CDP and eventually move into a CDP role. So creating a career pathway, like Beth mentioned before, for younger workers or workers that might not have ready mix experience. We used the cost simulation tool that we developed to evaluate the economic feasibility of employing concrete delivery technicians to support new hires at selected sites. We found that if the introduction of the technician role increases training and ramp up speed, while also increasing the average retention time of CDPs, this could result in significant cost savings. Another group that can be targeted is trying to recruit more women to the CDP role. We believe we can learn from groups such as Women in Trucking on ways to improve the work-life balance and can identify opportunities to reduce the physical burden of the job with automation and other technologies. Reducing that physical nature of the job would also help in retaining more senior CDPs for longer. Finally, we've learned through speaking with companies that developing a flexible part-time workforce has been successful, such as recruiting firefighters, teachers, and even airport bus drivers that have some of these similar skill sets or just flexible schedules. Other groups that we've learned that could be tapped into include veterans and those that have been previously incarcerated. In addition to broadening that talent pool, we have found overall that it would be helpful to change the perception of the job. We know that NRMCA has done a lot of work and has changed the position title to concrete delivery professional rather than concrete mixer driver to try to just elevate the importance of that role and the technical skills that are needed in this role. We believe this is a change that all companies should take to help promote the highly skilled nature of this job in job advertisements, etc. To improve some of the job tasks that CDPs dislike the most that we found in the survey, more technology could be adopted to help with some of the more rote tasks, such as washing the trucks or maneuvering the chutes. Okay, Beth, next slide, please. We've heard from many companies that retaining CDPs can be an even greater challenge than recruiting. Through our interviews and through the survey, we found that it's vital to reduce some of these first year challenges, that's a really critical period. And many drivers leave after a very short period of time, which is typically less than a year. We believe that it's important to continue to promote standardized, high quality training. For example, the NRMCA has some CDP training courses that can greatly benefit a lot of different ready mix companies. To be most effective, this training should emphasize training in tasks that first-year drivers find to be most difficult, such as understanding the concrete properties, like Beth had said previously, or placing the concrete to help them be more confident and effective earlier on in the job so that they're less likely to leave within that short amount of time. We also would recommend improving the learning outcomes from training by tapping into more hands-on training models like virtual reality. We kind of consider this to be more of a longer term solution. There are, some investments required in this, some technology learning that's required, but this could be helpful in simulating some driver scenarios to improve safety, help drivers experiencing challenging driving and placement scenarios, and learning more about the properties of concrete in a hands-on manner. To retain more CDPs, we can enhance career-long engagement with CDPs. Our survey's results show that CDPs would like to be more involved in the scheduling process, which could help to significantly improve their job satisfaction. To do this, we've recommended looking into scheduled bidding systems that could allow CDPs to have more autonomy in their schedule. This could be one strategy to try and deploy, and I believe some companies may even be working on this at this point. Research also shows that scheduled bidding is an effective way to retain workers, and we see this in industries like ride sharing and nursing as well. This more flexible scheduling has also been helpful in retaining more senior employees for a lot longer, which will help to retain some of that institutional knowledge. So you all know this already, but scheduling is a really big piece here. Another scheduling strategy that we heard of was just having rotational schedules for scheduling and making sure that some of the drivers have every other weekend off, or just kind of providing some consistency to that schedule. We also learned that you can increase driver management engagement and strengthen driver recognition through automated data-driven feedback processes where CDPs could be rewarded and given incentives based on performance. In a partnership with Rocket Start and Rocket Start users recently, we performed some preliminary analysis to understand how gamification, for example, could help to increase worker satisfaction. Across 7 of the companies that use Rocket Start, we found that after 1 year, retention had increased by about 55% after implementation of gamification tools. In surveying the CDPs that use gamification right now, several drivers wrote that they feel more engaged, recognized, and rewarded through using the app. Managers shared that gamification helps to promote some fun competition, improves productivity, and there are drivers that even pay their bills from some of the points that they earn through the app. We're working to collect additional data to really understand and do some case study analysis here, but to see what are the effects over time, and are hoping to share some more of this information as we collect additional data and see these effects. We've also learned that gamification of learning outcomes is effective for many companies and can help to improve some of the intrinsic motivation of CDPs. Gamification has been used more recently with high school students through a program called Concrete Quest that is teaching high school students about the fundamentals of concrete. I believe this is occurring with the Tennessee Concrete Association, and from what I've heard, the students really like it. Last but not least, I'm sure when all of you have applied for jobs, you've wanted to understand what is that career pathway potential. This is very important for CDPs too, and that's what we had seen in the surveys and heard through interviews, especially with younger workers. So we believe helping to structure training to enable development for other concrete careers is critical in retaining those workers and communicating that up front, showing the possibilities of moving up the ladder, as many of the CDPs indicated in the survey. Next slide, please. Thank you. We know technology and data can really help with recruitment and retainment, but we also believe it can be really useful in improving CDP productivity. In the analysis of the 36,000 deliveries that we performed, we found on average that a CDP takes 120 minutes to deliver a load of concrete. If we were to reduce this time by only 12 minutes, this would significantly boost productivity and nearly alleviate that shortage issue. The gain in productivity could enable each CDP to deliver an average of 10% more loads of concrete per day. There are significant opportunities to achieve this level of productivity, such as increasing the use of automation for non-value added tasks. So, for example, like truck washing. Some vendors have suggested that an automated truck washer could reduce the batch-to-batch cycle time by about 10 minutes. So that 9% in productivity would provide a positive return on investment, as long as the investment was less than 50% of the annual expected net revenue. Another more long-term technology strategy is to use augmented reality technology to improve efficiencies for CDPs by allowing them to practice some of their skills through different scenarios and get some real-time feedback. We've seen that this has been really helpful in other industries. I know in manufacturing, for example, manufacturing plants, there's a number of folks that are adopting augmented reality to help with improving the worker productivity. Finally, evaluation of data can also help to manage customer demand and shape that demand curve. We can use data to develop machine learning models that predict customer demand and CDP supply based on patterns over time. Then surge pricing could be applied, such as the surge pricing that's used in different rideshare apps. Higher prices could be charged for some of those unfavorable shifts, like early in the morning, holidays, weekends, to help incentivize drivers to take these shifts. So paired with a bidding app that could allow CDPs to choose shifts based on their time and wage preferences. Next slide, please. So today we've discussed some short and long-term solutions based on the findings from interviews, the literature review, nationwide survey of about 400 drivers, and simulation modeling. We do believe there's opportunities for additional research and outreach in this area to improve the CDP shortage. While we've proposed some new solutions like a bidding app, it would be really useful to develop a proof of concept model and pilot with different companies to assess how that app might perform in ready-mix concrete settings. Obviously, the ready-mix concrete industry is very different than ride sharing and different than nursing schedules. So trying to pilot and see how the technology could be adopted is really important. We also believe that case study analysis and dissemination of those case studies across those industries could help demonstrate the effectiveness of other emerging technologies like VR, AR, and gamification. One of the biggest gaps that's made assessing this challenge really difficult compared to other industries is the lack of data on CDPs. Unlike other jobs that have years of data collection in the Bureau of Labor Statistics databases, the CDP data are much more scarce. We therefore think it would be useful to develop a CDP data hub that could allow for more in-depth analysis to really understand some of these trends over time. Beth presented on a simulation model of a CDP operation that helps us understand the value of investing in several possible solutions. But all these strategies are going to require either investments or changes to operations. Development of this model allows us to understand the value of making these changes. And so we believe that further development of this model to allow for the creation of a common platform to test the effects of new strategies on costs and productivity for operations of different sizes and locations could be really beneficial. Understanding the value of these solutions is really important to the industry and will require the industry working together. We would be happy to continue to support this type of effort and work with all of you on the analysis. We are also doing our best to raise the awareness of the CDP shortage and the benefits of this skilled occupation through engaging with media outlets and working on research papers, research briefs. We put out our report and did our best to share that pretty widely. Last but not least, we think it would be helpful to keep the momentum moving from this research and the engagement with the industry by increasing the opportunities for CDP workforce communications. We thoroughly enjoyed hosting the workshop at MIT and would love to continue to host innovative meetings to provide updates on workforce research and invite leading experts and industry speakers to share insights and emerging solutions. We also believe it would be helpful to develop a webinar series of experts and industry leaders to share potential strategies and keep that conversation moving forward. Despite the CDP workforce challenges facing the industry and continuing to face the industry, we believe that there are short and long-term strategies that we discussed today that could help in recruiting more talent to the industry, retaining your current skilled CDPs, and improving the productivity and efficiency of existing operations. Thank you so much for coming today and listening to all of the research that went into this and some of the suggestions. We really appreciate your time and would like to thank the Concrete Advancement Foundation and NRMCA for making this special project possible. Thank you again. We look forward to any questions that you have or any discussion points that you'd like to share. Thanks again. Andrew, is the best way for Q&A? Oh, okay. I think somebody raised their hand. Oh.
So
Looks like there's
sorry.
some questions in the Q&A, maybe?
Yeah, there are. So let's start with those. And then to the person who raised their hand, it seems like we're having an issue with the feature which allows you to take over the microphone. So if you wouldn't mind writing your question in the Q&A, that would be excellent. Yes, to the questions about receiving the slides and the recording, yes, you will get both of those. And the recording of this will be available on YouTube for you to watch and distribute. Okay. And then while I have the microphone, in case you need it, I see the executive report is there on the screen. I just want to share that over the chat as well. Okay. And to kind of kick us off, I did want to present a question to Liz and Beth, which I think opens up a really interesting discussion. So these developments around augmented reality and automation, so say truck washing, automated chutes, do you find that those have a relationship with making the job a little more accessible and maybe expanding the candidate pool?
Liz, do you want to take this or me?
Whichever you'd like.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let me. So one of the things that I found. So let's take the automated shoots. So what I learned, and probably folks here on the call maybe be interesting to hear what their thoughts is that yes, it does make the job easier for the CDP. But and also then of course for the for those CDPs who are a little bit older, and also if you're trying to open up the recruitment pool for women. However, one of the things that I learned was that the technology itself, that there can be a lot of issues with maintenance, and so in the end the final decision is, well, let's just go with the chutes, the steel chutes. And so I think that maybe looking at that and finding ways to make it better would be an opportunity for sure. And then the augmented reality is excellent. Well, people learn at a faster rate. What we've been learning here in manufacturing, in the manufacturing industry, but because it's so immersive, what I can't recall the name of the company, Liz, that has creates the rollover simulation, but it takes this person and it puts them in this in the seat, in the driver's seat, and they experience a rollover, and because it's so immersive it feels so real, and so that motivates their behavior when they're driving. And so that's safety is paramount, right? And so if you have someone behind the wheel who really understands now and has felt that experience, that's going to change behavior. And I've seen some images of some trucks that have rolled over, and holy smokes. So I'm glad it wasn't me. So yes, absolutely. And the other thing too, and again, it was a little bit anecdotal because, I think we conducted maybe 25 interviews with, and that included everyone, the CDPs and tech managers, but truck washing. Um, that seems like some low-hanging fruit there, for many reasons why that seems like a great solution because up here, especially in up north, where you don't have to have the person getting out of the truck to clean and wash it and get it's safer, it's faster. And so I've really heard good things about that, and so that really is shaving off some time, and increasing, the productivity and the loads delivered per day. So there's these short-term solutions that exist, and then, the long-term solutions, which will require some investment, like the bidding app. But that's the holy grail, figuring out the scheduling, it seems like. So Liz, do you want to add to that?
I think you summed it up pretty well. I will say the rollover company, that's Siembra, I believe, with
Yeah,
Scott Thomas. Yeah, I never was able to participate in it. I was pregnant at the time, unfortunately, but I would like to experience it, and I think it's pretty impressive technology. But maybe I think there's a few other questions, so maybe we'll
yep,
keep moving.
sounds
Yeah,
good.
I think so. We do have a number of questions, so we'll try to go through them, answer them as quickly as we can, but just apologies in advance if we're unable to get to yours.
Yeah,
I want to
if you want to
continue.
schedule
Yep.
a follow-up time, if anyone would like to, schedule a time, our emails are right
Yeah,
here. Please feel
yeah,
free
of
to reach
course.
out. We love to discuss this project. It's a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
go ahead, Andrew. Sorry.
Yes. No, no worries. I want to continue with a pretty timely and interesting one. So, in light of the administration change, how do the recommendations you proposed help the federal government to improve spending efficiency and American-made procurement?
Wow, that's a great question.
Hmm.
I think, with the push for efficiency, the piece around productivity is really, really important here. I think especially in just the workforce world in general, I see a lot of research on recruitment and retention of workers, which I think is really important. But improving the productivity and the efficiency of your current workforce, I think, is incredible. So we collect so much data. I know there's a lot of businesses, even in the concrete industry, that's collecting that data. And I think leveraging the technologies and data that you all have already to understand what some of the low-hanging fruit are in your operations is really important. So when we did that study and found the 12 minutes, I think we could do that for each individual company and look at all of these different deliveries and really figure out where are the kind of biggest pain points and address those. So I think that these recommendations still very much with the new administration just underscore how important it is to be efficient and use your data that you're already collecting. But good question.
Okay. Beth, anything to add? If not, I'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, no, Liz nailed it. But if there are recruitment pools that are shrinking, then that's just even more of an incentive, right? To make sure that we are focusing on, the retention and productivity. So 100%.
All right. So let me see here. Um, Not so much a question as a suggestion, but would it be possible to, in the future, in collecting driver statistics, collect data on trucks equipped with automatic water and admixture dispensing systems, which could be controlled by slump monitoring capability?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That would be a fantastic study to link it to retention and linking, especially for those first year CDPs. So I think that, I know that there are companies out there that are implementing changes and adopting technology. So it would be fantastic to work with those who want to work with us and to look at that. It'd be really neat, just like what Liz was talking about with working with Rocket Star and looking at gamification and how that is helping, with engagement between the managers and CDPs and retention. So it's there. So I'm curious. I have a question for the audience. I'm curious to learn more about your perspective and feelings about the simulator and having this common platform that helps you estimate the value of retention for your plant. Using your inputs. Um, does that seem does that seem like that would be valuable and to the industry? You can type in the chat and
Yeah, also Andrew, were there other questions that we should make sure to
Yeah,
answer too
yeah,
as other maybe
oh, okay.
as maybe as folks are typing in their responses to Beth's
absolutely.
awesome
Yes.
question?
Yes. So while you mull on this awesome question, so are there any next steps that maybe you would like to go into further detail on that the industry can directly help out with if there are interested audience members?
I can take this and then Beth, please jump in.
Yeah, of course.
We do have a lot of data that companies have shared with us already. And, like I said, we started this case study with Rocket Start and we're able to receive data from them. We had some delivery data, that 36,000 data set. But I think, as much as the industry is willing to share additional data for us to dive in and further expand these analyses would be great. Or if there are companies that are interested in the proof of concept schedule, bid for schedule app or any type of technology case study, I think we'd be really excited to dive in. I think in the report we have a whole section just on ideas for further exploration but we're all ears if there's other ideas that the industry has on ways that we could assist and dive into this deeper. I think we'd really love to engage and hear more.
Okay. Let me see. Beth, anything to add?
No, okay.
All right. Awesome. And then the final question we have for right now, and please feel free to add more questions or type your responses to Beth's question in the chat. Are there any examples of technologies used for recruiting and training that you haven't touched on yet that you think would be useful to highlight?
Hmm. I right now I cannot think of anything, but I just, I think that in terms of attracting the next generation, it is important, you know, using augmented reality and gamification. That connects with this audience. So, that's it's critical to think in that fashion and to innovate. Um, so, but I cannot think of a specific technology at this moment. There are the sensors that are on the truck, truck washing, the automated chutes. Um, yeah, Liz.
Can't think of a specific technology, but I think on the recruitment side, something that's really exciting is to hear about ways that folks are trying to recruit these younger workers, recruit high school workers. So I know through the interviews, we heard quite a bit about companies trying to develop internship programs for their local high school students, going to high school career fairs, or even I had mentioned that there is a program, Concrete West, no, not West, Concrete Quest, that the TCA is sponsoring, and I hope to see more and more of those types of strategies be adopted so that these high school students, these college students can learn. This sounds really silly, but how cool cement and concrete is. I had no idea before we started this project, but I think as much as we can leverage tools like this to just get them excited about this career path, that's going to be one of the easier, I think, solutions to just getting them into the workforce early and staying for life, as we see many drivers do who are really proud of their jobs. So I think that's, yeah, not necessarily a technological solution, but just really focusing on that younger age group that, I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
And yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of that before we move on to our next question. One program I did want to highlight, which is making a big impact in the youth space, is Skate for Concrete. If you
Yes.
haven't heard about it before, it's a high school certification program used by CTE instructors. So very cool stuff, and I encourage you to check it out. Let's see. Moving along here. Is there any data to demonstrate, or do we have any data demonstrating whether this number of CDLs are trending downwards? And if so, are CDLs being issued at the same rate as in the past?
That's a good question, but I did not personally look into that, but I do believe that data exists.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's
Same.
something we could look at.
Absolutely, of course.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sorry. What were you? I didn't mean to interrupt you, Andrew. Sorry.
Oh no, you're perfectly fine. Please go ahead.
Oh, yeah. One of the things that I've come across in doing workforce development across different industries and working with technicians from community colleges and thinking about career pathways. Um, one of the things that stands out, and I think that is an opportunity when we were talking about standardized training, is to help people take these skills and translate them into competencies, because competencies they are transferable, and so within a plant and within the industry. And so, troubleshooting and maintenance and communication and advising. And so while they're learning these skills and learning these tasks that are associated with becoming a CDP, I think that there's a really it's important for the manager to link these tasks to skills and abilities and competencies so that this person has the ability to communicate what they really can do. And maybe they don't have all of the qualifications, but they can say, well, I have, I've demonstrated this at this time and being able to troubleshoot and I've been, dealing with contractors and I can communicate and advise and assess situations. So I think that, and that didn't really come up, but just something that I'd like to share with the group.
Absolutely.
So.
Good.
Are there any other questions, Andrew?
I think that's it for now. So yeah, I think we had an excellent discussion. I just wanted to go ahead and give a thank you to the presenters. I think this was great. The Q&A was excellent. Thank you to the participants. You had some really thought-provoking questions, and of course, we appreciate your attention and participation. And finally, I just wanted to give a special thank you to the Concrete Advancement Foundation for sponsoring this special project. So, like I said before, I'll go ahead and distribute this recording via YouTube soon, and you'll also receive the slides. So with that, thanks again, and have a great day.
Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.
All right,
Bye.
bye.